Imagine for a moment waking up on your 70th birthday. The world is quieter than it once was. The phone rings less. The pace of your days softens. There is, perhaps for the first time in your life, an open expanse of time before you, a space that invites reflection, not just activity. It's here in this quiet that the real secrets to a long and vibrant life begin to reveal themselves. Not in the clamor of advice columns or the barrage of pharmaceutical ads, but in the hush that follows the question, what now? For many, this question is tinged with loss of youth, of loved ones, of roles that once defined them. But for those who truly thrive, this question is not an ending, but a doorway. It's a call inward, toward meaning, purpose, and the courage to keep becoming. It's in this space that Eleanor lived. Eleanor did not age gracefully because she had never known hardship. Quite the opposite. Her life was marked by heartbreak and resilience in equal measure. She lost her husband of 60 years and, more painfully, a child. She watched friends grow frail and sometimes disappear altogether. But through it all, Eleanor refused to let bitterness settle in her bones. She tended to her grief as one tends a garden, delicately, patiently, with a sense that even the rawest wounds could give rise to new beauty if met with kindness and care. Perhaps that is the first secret, the willingness to feel deeply and to honor what you feel, even when it hurts. Instead of turning away from sorrow, Eleanor invited it in. She read her son's letters aloud, letting the memories linger as if he were sitting beside her. She cried when she needed to, but in doing so, she kept her heart supple, able to receive joy when it arrived. Eleanor's days were stitched together with small rituals. There was the weekly letter, sometimes to a granddaughter, sometimes to a neighbor, sometimes to herself. There was the morning gratitude, 3 things spoken softly before the sun was fully up. There were the Sunday walks to the cemetery, where she spoke to her late husband as though he had simply stepped out for a walk and would be back any moment. These rituals were not grand, but they gave shape to her days, a scaffolding of meaning that made each moment feel intentional. She believed in what she called spiritual stretching, the idea that the soul, like the body, needs regular movement to stay limber. For Eleanor, this meant forgiveness. She forgave others and herself as a discipline, recognizing that anger, if left untended, calcifies and weighs a person down. She forgave even when it was hard, trusting that softness, not stubbornness, was the true sign of strength. Food, for Eleanor, was a source of pleasure and connection, not anxiety. She ate what tasted good, what reminded her of childhood, what was in season. She shared her meals, always half for herself, half for a neighbor or the stray cat that waited on her porch. She believed that generosity was nourishment too, feeding not just the body, but the spirit. Movement was another of her quiet rebellions. Arthritis made her mornings slow, but she never surrendered to stillness. She danced in her kitchen, swaying to old jazz records, her laughter echoing over the clatter of spoons and pans. She walked in her garden, stooping to pull weeds or gather tomatoes. She moved not to stave off age, but to celebrate the body that had carried her through so much. "You may ache," she would say to her knees, "but we're still here." Eleanor paid attention to the play of sunlight on her table, to the sound of birds, to the taste of ripe peaches in July. She believed that wonder was an antidote to despair, and that noticing small beauties was a way of saying yes to life again and again. This attention, she insisted, was not just poetic, but practical, a way to keep the mind sharp, the heart open, the days meaningful. She cultivated friendship like a gardener tends a beloved plant. Even as many of her contemporaries withdrew, Eleanor reached out, making new friends of all ages. She hosted tea for neighbors, volunteered at the library, sent birthday cards to people she barely knew. She understood intuitively what science now confirms, that loneliness is a greater threat to health than almost any physical ailment. Eleanor's kitchen table was rarely empty. There was always room for one more, and at the end of each day, she whispered her thanks for the hard moments and the easy ones, for laughter and for tears. She never let the sun set without gratitude, believing that each day was a gift, even the ones that hurt. Perhaps the greatest secret that Eleanor embodied is this: life after 70 is not about resisting age, but about embracing it. It's about living with intention, meeting each day with curiosity and kindness, finding meaning in connection, in ritual, in forgiveness, and in small acts of generosity. It is about refusing to let your spirit become brittle, no matter what your body may endure. Longevity, then, is not a matter of luck or perfect genes. It is a practice, a daily commitment to staying open, to loving and being loved, to seeking wonder, to forgiving, to paying attention. It is the courage to keep asking, what now? Not with fear, but with hope. In the end, Eleanor's life was not measured in years, but in the depth with which she lived each one. That is the real story, and perhaps the only secret worth knowing. After 70, time becomes precious in a way you can't quite anticipate in your younger years. It transforms from an endless resource into a currency that can't be earned back, only spent with intention. Eleanor understood this better than anyone I have known. She spent her days deliberately, savoring the small rituals that turn ordinary moments into lasting memories. Her long walks were unhurried, each step a quiet meditation, each breath a celebration of being alive. Her handwritten letters became cherished treasures, reminders that words have the power to reach across distance and time. And in her kitchen, Eleanor's soup simmered on the stove, filling her home with warmth, not just from the steam, but from the comfort she ladled into every bowl. Eleanor didn't cook for accolades or applause. Her soups weren't famous for their exotic flavors, but for the solace they offered. Friends and neighbors arrived in her kitchen carrying heavy burdens, and somehow, after a bowl of soup and a gentle conversation, they left a little lighter. She listened as they sipped, never rushing, never judging. "We're all soups," she would say in her soft, steady voice. "What you put in stirs you. What you leave out defines you." In that simple wisdom, she revealed the secret to living well. Be mindful of what you invite into your life. Habits, people, thoughts, and just as mindful of what you choose to leave behind. Aging, Eleanor believed, wasn't about following a rigid checklist of rules. It was about finding a rhythm that suited your soul. She listened to her body's whispers, tending to her needs before they grew into aches and pains. She laughed often, believing that laughter was the cheapest medicine around. And when tears came, she welcomed them as the soul's way of stretching and healing. There was no shame in feeling deeply. Sleep was never an afterthought for Eleanor. It was a nightly ritual, a sacred transition from the day's busyness to the quiet world of dreams. She avoided screens and distractions, preferring the soothing scent of lavender, the warmth of a bath, and the comfort of a good book. For over 40 years, this was her nightly routine, a gentle invitation for her spirit to wander and wonder. Her dreams kept her curious, filling her heart with hope for places she'd never see and for loved ones she hadn't yet met. She wrote letters to her future great-grandchildren, tucking them away for someday, believing that hope itself was a vital nutrient, one too often forgotten. Eleanor's life was not defined by avoiding death, but by embracing life. She didn't chase youth or perfection. Instead, she approached each day with presence, gratitude, and a reverence for the ordinary. She taught me that adding years to your life isn't about fear, it's about love. It's about leaning into each experience, wide-eyed and open-hearted, refusing to let your spirit grow old even as your body changes. If you find yourself wondering how to make these years count, maybe the answer isn't in a miracle cure or a strict routine. Maybe it's in writing a letter, tending a garden, sharing a story, forgiving an old hurt, or simply taking a walk on a quiet morning. Maybe it's about honoring the child within you, the part that's eager to explore, laugh, and dream. So, as you greet tomorrow, consider what you might do differently. Will you move your body, offer forgiveness, express gratitude, or write a letter that might bring comfort to someone else? Will you choose to truly live your years rather than simply count them? Because in the end, the secret to a long, vibrant life is not about surviving. It's about deeply, joyfully living each day you're given.